Hi, I'm Nicole.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth.
We're going to talk today about group times, all things group times. So we'll talk about what group times are, when we do group times, what kind of group times we do, the benefits of group times. Anything that you can imagine talking about group times is what we're going to chat about today. So hopefully we can give you lots of great information. If we get to the end of this and there's something that you haven't got knowledge about or information about, or you've got some questions, send them on through and we'll get them answered for you.
So a group time essentially is that time of the day that we are bringing all the children together to be able to share our wisdom, our knowledge, to share important things that have happened throughout the day.
It's not a time where we gather children together and we sing some happy song just to bring the classroom back under control. I think that's something that's it's a really common experience in early education services where people will use group times or mini group times or mini reset times to as a method of control for the classroom, and it's not something we want to get in the habit of doing. We want to use group times in a valuable and meaningful and really productive way for our work.
We want to use group times as a way to create a beautiful rhythm for the day and to give children those milestones to know that once this group time happens, I know what's coming up for the rest of the day. But we don't want to use it as a way to disrupt their learning and their meaningful play that they're engaging in. Literacy group times are probably my favourite, and I guess that's a time that you're reading and engaging in storytelling. So really beautiful books, puppets, story stones, those types of group times to share a story with the children is I love the literacy group times. Also music times,
mindfulness times, yoga times, movement times. I think there's lots of opportunity in early education for spontaneous group times, and there'll be times when you might be in the garden with children and they might find a bug or an insect, and you'll stop and some children will gather around and you'll have a discussion and have a conversation and engage in something that is quite a meaningful experience, and even document the experience. The other kind of group times, I guess, would be planned group times where we have project work that we're doing with the children, so very specific work that we have planned, like a follow-up activity for the children.
I think something to be mindful of is that group times doesn't necessarily mean every single child coming to the space. There are small, separating the classroom into those smaller group times and having more meaningful conversations and discussions is really beneficial.
Your group times can even be times when you're sitting down and doing different experiences with children, like art or a drawing experience, or really anything. It is, like Elizabeth said, just gathering a group of children or a group of children gathering themselves. It doesn't even have to be us instigating those processes, and making the most of that opportunity. There are a bunch of things that you need to consider before you run a group time, so we want to sort of plan it first. Planning your group time is going to be hugely important. It's going to give you clarity on what you're hoping to achieve, and I think one of the most important things with a group time is to have an intention. It's such a beautiful opportunity for us to do some direct teaching with the children, for us to find out what their knowledge base is, what it is that they're interested in learning more about. It's a great time for us to ask questions. The ages of the children, how old the children are that you're catering the group time to, and their ability and their sort of development at that time, so where they're at in terms of concentration span. So we're not going to, for example, expect children that are maybe 2 years old to sit for 15 minutes. We just want to run something for little children that's just a couple of minutes and just make it fun and light and easy, and just start to extend their concentration over time. I think as well, making sure that you know what your group of children's interests are. I think that's hugely important in terms of project work.
It's what's going to keep them most engaged.
Some other things to think about along with the time and the age of the children is where you're going to do that group time, so where it is that the group time is happening, what the possible distractions are within the room. So you wouldn't want to sit, a group of children in the middle of a block play area or in the dramatic play space, or in the middle of an art space and then try and tell them a story. If you're going to sit in the block area, absolutely tell them a story, but use the blocks to do so they've got something to engage with afterwards. You know, make it a little bit of a process for them, make it an opportunity for learning, use the resources. So when you're planning, have a think about the resources that you will need, have a think about the books that you might need, or the musical instruments you might need. There could be all sorts of different things that you might have, but depending on the type of group time that you're running. You know, it's really important to remember that you've read the story. If you're reading a story to the children, if you're running a music group time, that you know the songs. If you're doing a music and movement time, that you're aware of the actions, the activities, the yoga story, the moves, the postures.
Yeah, I think what is most important is to don't rely too much on a YouTube video or the iPhone. Make sure that you know the words to the songs, that you know the actions to the songs, because that is how you're going to engage the children.
Research some different songs, listen to the songs that the other teachers in you know, your team are using while they're doing their group times. If there's a specific project or something that's particularly relevant, you know, look some songs up. There's so many children's nursery rhymes, but there's so many cool, like, kids fun songs as well. And there's so many books. I'm a book resource. I know Elizabeth's definitely a book resource. You can borrow our books whenever you want to. Just send us a quick message and we'll deliver a collection, usually. Theme-based books, whatever it is that the interest topic is. Both of us have a huge collection. There's so many different resources that you can access, and I think one of the things that's really important when you're planning is to have those resources on hand, have them ready. Props and things that children can actively engage in that are moving, like puppets or you know, different resources, materials.
And have the good quality resources. You know, if you're going to have a storybook, you don't want a little one that the children won't be able to see. You want to make sure that you've got a good sized one to be able to see, and the same with the puppets or any felt stories that you do. You want to make sure that you've got it all set out and the good quality ones set out for the children.
Yeah, and that's really like setting the tone for their play as well. The other thing to consider when we're talking about resources is natural resources. So, you know, like, children love to use natural resources, and they're so abundant, or they're all around us. And, you know, there are so many, you know, books and stories and songs and activities and things that you can do, group times, that you can use natural resources. And it can be simple as, you know, collecting some leaves in the garden and turning leaves into puppets, drawing faces on some leaves, or, you know, using sticks and just putting like a little piece of paper that's like a, you know, like a t-shirt on a stick to tell the story with the stick, or have like the stick narrate the story for you for the day. There are so many things that you can do with nature and natural resources, and there are so many stories and songs and activities that will just provide, I don't know the word, but just
to make it fun, make it really engaging. And then you're also pushing yourself a little bit, and I think that's
great for teaching skills.
Yeah.
Great for teaching skills. If you're doing activities that have like science-based stuff or maths-based information, again, it's just plan and know the information. So if you're not 100% sure, I can guarantee you the children will ask a question you don't know an answer to. And it's perfectly fine in a group time to say, I'm not really sure, we can look that up together and look it up, and absolutely look it up. But you want to know that you've got a good handle on most of the information, because those group times are such an important time for us to, you know, be imparting information to children and really teaching them about different things that they've been asked or that they have asked to learn about. Your transition into the group time. So if you're bringing them into a literacy group time, you don't want them coming in like stomping dinosaurs. You want them coming in like tiptoeing mice, breathing, settling, being still, talking to them about who can be like the most quiet, and then doing the things that we all do for our group times, like using our 5 L's and starting to introduce those lifelong skills that they'll use right through into primary school.
You also want them to be coming to the space slowly, maybe 1 or 2 at a time, rather than a whole rush of children coming to the mat all together. So just a nice slow transition in, then you can remind them to settle, do their 5 L's, and that's already a beautiful way to get their attention right from the get-go.
And so once you've got them transitioned into the group time, you've got them sitting, you've got them settled, you want to do an introduction. So you just want to give them a little bit of information about what it is that you're going to be talking about for the group time, or what you're going to be doing during the group time for that day. So just introduce the ideas, build some enthusiasm, build some excitement, make it sound like you're going to have a great time. Even tell them we're going to have a great time today, like we've got some really cool stuff to do.
Some really exciting things that we're learning today.
Yeah.
Just get them excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, and you know, wherever possible, engage them in the process as much as possible. Remind them if the group time has come about because of something they've asked questions about. You know, often at the end of the group time, I know both Elizabeth and I and lots of teachers that we've worked with would typically say, what do you want to know next? You know, what is it that you want to learn next? And so we take those questions and we build a group time around those so that we can answer them for the children moving forwards. So we're going to do the transition in, we're going to do the group time, then we're going to run the group time. So you're going to have your resources ready, you're going to know your information, you're going to actually do the group time activity. Now it's really important here that you enjoy it, okay? We don't want to be running a group time where we're reading a story with a bland face.
Yeah, or a monotone voice.
Or a monotone, because it's boring.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody wants to listen to that. Whereas when you're really excited and you're enthusiastic to be talking to the children, they're just much more likely to engage. Much like I am, unless I fall asleep listening to myself when I use a monotone voice. And then once the group time's complete, again, a really nice way to conclude the group time is to just briefly reflect on what you've been doing and ask those questions. What would you like to know more about? Is there something that you know, we haven't talked about today that you would like to know? Have you got all the information that you want from today? Or any other open-ended questions that you're going to be, you know, asking to encourage children to participate in the group time, and to participate in the planning of the next lot of information that it is that we want to share. And then we transition again, but we transition out. And exactly like Elizabeth said just now, we just do it in small numbers, you know, 1 or 2 children at a time. And again, have a think about what it is that they're going to. What's the next activity? If you've just done, we'll use dinosaurs as an example again, but if you've just done a group time on dinosaurs and they're going to outside play, by all means, get them stomping all their way out to the garden. If they're going to lunchtime, you might ask a question for your transition. What do you think a dinosaur might like to eat for lunch today? Okay, see if you can just walk very quietly like the dinosaurs might do to go and find your lunch. We'll wash our hands and then we'll, you know, go out to the garden to have your beautiful lunchtime today. And that might start an ongoing conversation in the group that you're still sitting with. While 1 or 2 children head off to do that transition, you can continue talking to the children about what dinosaurs eat. You know, and it doesn't have to be something that a transition is, you know, you want it to be a nice slow progression of children moving. I think one of the things that often we will balk at as educators, or we find quite difficult around group times, is behaviour guidance and behaviour management during the group. It can be really distracting as an educator when you've got 1 or 2 children that just consistently kind of disengage or aren't terribly interested or whatever else, and we don't want to sort of, you know, that's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to manage first and foremost how we feel about that experience. It's not personal. The children aren't interested in what it is that we're doing for whatever reason, or we don't have enough connection with them. And if you refer back to Sandy Phoenix's work, you'll understand what that reference is about too. So I do encourage you to go back to that. So when we're talking about behaviour guidance, there's different ways that we can use to engage children and different strategies that we can introduce in order to manage the group times, and understand and accept that sometimes not every child is going to participate in the group. If they're not all participating in the group, as long as they're not being hugely destructive, it's okay just to let them watch, you know.
Yeah.
And I want
I think don't draw attention to the children who aren't participating in the group time, and don't draw comparisons. Look how this child is sitting, let's all sit like them. Not to pinpoint certain specific children within that time. I think just to be aware that yes, we have an expectation that for this specific time children are coming to the mat for their group, but also not to take it personally, like Nicole said, when a child is just not engaged in that experience, and probably it would serve the whole group if that child were to go and engage in a different activity in a different space of the classroom.
Yeah, and just allow them, you know. they're still little. You know, they're not in a primary school environment where they have to be super closely managed. It's okay if they don't want to participate that day. And I think if you reflect on your own life, you know, there are times that, you know, you don't want to do things that feel really heavy, or you feel uncomfortable doing them for the day. You know, as adults, obviously we have to make different decisions around that, and we're in a workplace, and you know, we're leading these different spaces for these children, and we're facilitating these different types of learning. But I want to encourage you to be really respectful of children's individual rights and their space and their time, and you know, they'll come when they are ready, you know, and you might want to engage them at a different time and build a connection with them in a different way at a different time to, you know, just reboot that relationship with them and sort of see what it is that they're interested in. And you might want to just plan a different little experience for those children that aren't necessarily wanting to engage in those big group activities. There are lots of children as well that I think we sort of expect to just participate in these big group activities, but they might be a bit shy and they might find it really difficult, and they might...
Yeah.
I just think we need to be mindful, and we need to come to these experiences with a whole lot of acceptance for where everybody might be at, you know, and just make it okay for children to be as much as possible who they are. Obviously, they have to engage in a certain number of things across a day. You know, there are some rules that we all need to follow, and we need to, you know, manage our time and our space, but yeah, go easy on them. Go easy on them.
And also, once again, from a developmental perspective, like sitting for a group time, being able to sit with your legs crossed looking at a teacher is activating and using a lot of core muscles that children, I mean, they just don't have and can't use for extended periods of time. They're still developing in that respect, so to also honour that, to sure.
Yeah. And you know, that would just also allow us to really reiterate the importance of using resources, you know, and engaging them very holistically, engaging their whole bodies in the different experiences wherever possible. You know, in your transition in, they're moving in, you know, you might have some activities where they get the opportunity to touch resources or participate or actively engage in what it is that you're doing during the group time. The group time might involve, even if it's, you know, if it's about animals, you might stop the story and say, oh, what sound does a cow make? Does it say quack? You know, just break it up a little bit for them, just break the energy up and just bring their focus back and keep it fun, you know. So yeah, just considering those different things. And look, I also want to say, be kind to yourself. Like, running groups takes time to learn. It takes a little bit of practice, and you know, the best thing that you'll learn from is failing. Like, and it's not, failing is not a bad thing. Failing is just an opportunity where we fall down and we get the opportunity to get back up again. Reflect on your own practice, and you know, work out what feels good for you to do when you're running a group, and then focus on that and build on your strengths. And you know, a really good place to start is to find something that you're interested in to share with a small group of children, and just take it one step at a time, just one step at a time. All right, guys, I think that wraps up our conversations around groups. Is there anything else to add?
No, I think we've covered everything.
No, I think we've got as much information in there as we need to get your group times rolling for now. And like I said, you know, ask some questions if you've got some, and we'll do some follow-up chats about this soon.